Alright you guys, well that wasn't too much fun at the end there. At one point we were in for 15K in the beginning, and yeah, that's gonna cap off our night with a 20K loss. Listen.
Everybody's great when they're not tired. The champions is when they tired, that's when the real champions come out. That's when that real dog come out. Because if you go piss like a puppy, stay on the porch and let the big dogs eat. Let them on the fucking field. Have some heart.
Alright you guys, jumping right into the video, pocket sixes, first hand of note. We open them up from the low jack and fire 3 bets us from the button. Pretty normal so far. It comes back around to me and we have a decision. Well, pocket sixes, not too much of a decision. I'm going to be putting in the call given the fact that we are deep, and also because there is a red knit button in front of me, meaning if we do not get rid of that button by winning a hand, we will owe the table, each player, $300. So it's definitely an expensive one. It's down to a few players. Gotta put in the call here with pocket sixes, and hopefully the dealer can help us out with a 6 on the flop. Maybe something like ace-6 deuce. That'd be pretty nice. 10-7 deuce, kind of similar, although kind of far off. Actions on me. I'm gonna start with a check, and Fire decides to go for a c-bet on this board. He will have pocket 10s, ace 10, king 10. However, I'm more likely to have pocket deuces and pocket 7s. So when he goes for a c-bet here, I decide to take a line of going for the check raise instead of just calling here. I'm obviously never folding. However, my logic is I don't want to just call and a jack, queen, king, or ace come out, and I just have no idea where I'm at. He has ace-jack offsuit. If a king or a queen come and then I check and he bets, I'm going to be forced to fold, but I would have had the best hand. So let's find out exactly where we're at right now and also give my hand some protection. I decided to raise his $350 bet up to $1,100, and you can see we clear out his hand. He had 28% equity, all the way down to 0 when he folds his cards, and we're taking on the first hand of the night, getting rid of the knit button. Pretty stoked on both of those things. Moving right along into the very next hand, we get rewarded with pocket kings from the +2 position, and I start with the standard raise to $150. I say standard raise to $150 because the $50 straddle is pretty much on the rest of the night, so just look at this stream as a $25.50. I raise it up to $150. Cashman is on the button, decides to put in the call with the 10-9 suited, and Yacht Club with the beautiful 5 deuce off from the +1, aka the $50 straddle. He puts in the call. We're going off to a flop, which gives me an overpair on an 8-6 3 board with 2 spades. Yacht checks it over to me, and I think most of you probably would go for a bet on this board. However, way more likely that Cashman or Yacht have pocket 8s or pocket 6s, or pocket 3s for that matter. They could even have a hand like 4-5 of spades, just a lot of hands that are going to put me in a tough spot. So I decide to check. I am out of position to Cashman. Let's see what he decides to do with the 10-9 high here, and he checks it behind, bringing in the 5 of diamonds on the turn. Yacht picks up some showdown value here with his pair of 5s and decides, hey, I'm going to go for a bet here and see where I'm at. And he fires out for $350. I think I like both my options in this exact spot, calling and raising. Both come with their pros and cons. In this spot, I decide to go with option 2, which is just calling. Cashman folds and we are off to the river, which pairs the bottom card. It comes the 3 of diamonds, and Yacht decides to go for a little bit more value on this river. Not exactly sure if he's trying to get me to call with an ace-high type of hand that had maybe a flush draw to go along with it, or maybe a hand like ace-4 of hearts, ace-4 of diamonds, something like that. Either way, when I have pocket kings and find myself in this spot, given the fact I didn't raise the turn, I gotta be raising this river and getting value against any 8x, pocket 7s, pocket 9s, pocket 10s. So I decided to pop his $350 bet all the way up to $1,000. It's a cool $1,000 to call, and it puts him in a weird spot. He has a pair of 5s, but he is beating some of my bluffs, ace-4, ace-king, ace-queen, all that good stuff. So at the end of the day, he puts in the call, music to my ears. I turn over the goods and he mucks, and we win that $3,200 pot. All right, you guys read the title of this video, so you know this is going to be the first time with pocket tens of the night. Good things coming for us, obviously. I raise it up to $150 from the hijack, and Danny decides to 3-bet me with the 8-7 suited. Like this raise here by him, and Fire finds himself in a potential 4-bet spot with pocket nines. He also could call, but the problem with calling is my range is uncapped, meaning I could still have aces, kings, and queens, and I'd come in for a 5-bet, and he would just be lighting $450 on Fire. No pun intended there with his name being Fire, but he puts in the call. Brass Monkey has what I think is a pretty clear 4-bet, but instead he just puts in the call as well. So both Fire and Brass Monkey electing to take the more passive route. It comes back around to me, and I could have a 4-bet here as well. There are two players that kind of defined their hands, being Fire and Brass Monkey. And Danny, sure, he could still have aces, kings, queens, all those good hands. It's just a weird spot. I probably want to be 4-betting some of the time. I probably want to be calling and closing the action another portion of the time. In this spot, I decide just to call, and it's a good thing that I did because the flop comes ace 10-4. Bang! We flop middle set.
Yeah, this could get expensive here for Brass Monkey.
All right, I'm going to be greedy here for a second. The only way this board would have been better if it was ace 10-9, giving Fire a set as well. But when the action checks all the way around to Danny, who was the pre-flop raiser, he decides to check behind, bringing in the 7 of diamonds on the turn. Fire checks over to Brass Monkey, who found himself in the spot with ace-king offsuit, top pair, top kicker, and he decides to go for a chunky, nearly pot-sized bet of $1,700, and the action's over to me. And when the action checks through on the flop, and the turn doesn't really change anything, 5-6 and 8-9 both have open enders, and if someone had a hand like a7, I'm still ahead of that. So I'm not really worried about too much. Additionally, there's no flush draw available, so I like calling here, and maybe someone behind me will go for a raise with a set, or maybe they'll just put in the call and we'll be making more money in the long run. That's what I decided to do. I just put in the call here. I think raising also has some merit, but you really just scare off a lot of hands like king jack, queen jack, stuff like that might put the money in and win some portion of the time. But in the long run, you're making money by just calling here. So I put in the $1,700, which gets rid of Danny with his open ender and Fire with his pair of nines. And just like that, we are going off to the river, which comes the king of diamonds, giving Brass Monkey 2 pair, but kind of sealing his fate, put him in a coffin. There's $5,200 in the middle, and I have less than that. He bets out for $3.5K into the pot, and I think about it for a second before jamming all in. He can't get away for an additional 1.3, puts in the call, and sees his fate when I turn over middle set on the flop. $15,000 pot coming over to old Wolfgang here with pocket tens. Not going for the 4-bet there, might have won me the maximum, although I don't really think Brass Monkey's going to be folding ace-king off. Still, pretty stoked in the way I played it. Also, just calling the turn was pretty nice. If I raise there, it gives him some rope to get away from it. But instead, we get rewarded with his entire stack, and our stack has ballooned up to $15,000.
Wolfgang here getting aces the very next hand. Wow.
Our night is going swimmingly, and we get rewarded by the poker gods with pocket aces from the low jack, and I raise it up to 150. We get one caller. That means we are going off to the flop, heads up, in position, and it comes pretty good for our range on a king jack 4 with 2 diamond board. Benham has nothing here and checks it over to me. I go for a c-bet, and he folds. Pretty standard, but just wanted to throw this in here to show you sometimes you got to get the cards. The other times you also have to get the flops. And we are winning this pot, but I wish it would have been a little bit larger. All right, we go from tens to aces, back down to tens. I find myself this time in the cutoff and raise it up to $300. The $100 straddle was on. That's why I decided to size up. And JD looks down at a premium from the small blind and has a pretty clear 3-bet. Decides to go for a standard 4 times my raise up to 1.2. And that clears the field. Everyone folds, comes back around to me. And in this spot, I have a pretty clear call. I'll be in position the rest of the way. We are very, very deep for a 25-50 game, around 300 big blinds effective. So I really like calling here in position, and that's what I decide to do, and we are going heads up to the flop. In kind of a gross spot, jacks versus tens, until the board comes queen 10-3. Bang! We flop middle set again.
There it is again, a set for Wolfgang.
Pocket tens are doing us wonders tonight, and JD has a pretty easy c-bet on this board. I like a sizing of 20 to 35% here, and that's what he decides to do when he goes small for $750. I think in this spot with pocket tens, I should be raising maybe 1 out of every 5 times. The other 4 out of 5 times, just put in the call here and look to fade a club, ace, or maybe a 9 in case he had king jack. That's what I decided to do. I just put in the call here, and we are going in position to the turn. The turn now comes the 4 of diamonds, and JD's in a weird spot. When he gets called on the flop, I'm going to have a lot of draws, like club draws and straight draws. I'm also going to have some queen X and also some 10X, like 10 jack, 10 9, all that good stuff, so I don't really hate a bet here. But I think in the long run, checking is probably the best move from JD. He's a good player, and he finds the check, and the action's over to me. Now, I think here I have a pretty easy decision of betting, and I think it gets even easier because I need to go large. The reasoning is he could have a hand like ace-king of clubs, ace-jack of clubs. He could even have a hand like queen-jack or king-queen, and I want to charge the maximum. That being said, I like 75% here, so somewhere around $3,000. Let's see what I decide to do in the moment. I decided to go a little bit larger for 3.5K. I think my logic in the moment was there's a lot of draws out there and I'm just trying to get value, protect my hand, etc. JD looks down at his hand once again and notices he has the jack of clubs, which is a really bad card for him to have. Just really quickly, it's a bad card because he blocks hands that have the jack of clubs in it, obviously, because he has it. So I can't have as many flush draws and as many jack 9 and jack king. So that puts him in a weird spot. He does have a pair. It kind of is nitty to fold, but there is an overcard, and he has the jack of clubs in his hand. So at the end of the day, he makes a very good fold here, gets rid of his cards. You can see he only had 3% equity, and good fold by you, JD, but I wish you would have put in the call, and I could have shoved it in on the river. Unfortunately, though, we are winning the pot. I say unfortunately because it could have been a little bit more, but no complaints. Pocket tens are definitely on my side tonight. First a 15K pot, now we win half that, 7.5K. Let's freaking go. Just wanted to confirm that all of my actions here in this hand were good. I pull up GTO Wizard, and you can see pre-flop that it is a call by me in the cutoff with pocket tens. Nothing to do there other than call. You're calling with all of your other pocket pairs and suited connectors. On the flop, you can see that my hand is pretty much a pure call as well, but like I said, you can be raising it around 20% of the time. On the turn, JD has an easy check. You can see that is confirmed by the solver. Pocket jacks are going to be wanting to check around 75 to 90% of the time. So good job by you, JD. And then the cutoff over here, you can see that pocket tens want to go for a large bet, and they want to do it for 75%. So I went a little bit large. Maybe that was kind of a tell. Either way, nice hand, JD. And if you guys want to pull up GTO Wizard and check your own hands, there is a link down below. You'll get like 10% off using my link. Let's move right into the next one. Local legend. Next hand, indeed, we look down at King Queen of Spades, and we find ourselves in the cutoff. Safine has already popped it up to 150. I make it 450. The action comes back around to Safine, but not until you see Danny actually decides to not go for the cold 4-bet with ace-queen off. Probably would have got Safine to fold, and I probably would have put in the call with king-queen suited, but it would have been tough for me to play post-flop. So interesting decision by Danny not 4-betting on the button. Safine decides to defend with king-jack suited, and we are going off to a flop heads up. The board comes 10-8, deuce, rainbow, and it goes check, check. I think I could be betting here given the fact there is a spade on board and I have 2 overs and some backdoor straight ideas, but I decided to check. I can't really blame myself there, and we see a board pairing deuce of clubs on the turn, and Safine checks it over to me for a second time. Here I think betting is probably the right move. I want to start to get hands like pocket 5s, pocket 4s, pocket 3s to fold. And in case he has a hand like jack 9 or 9-7, you want to get value from that. Instead, I decide to check behind. I think this is a mistake. Got to be noticing this in the future. But we get a gin card on the river when it comes to King of Diamonds.
And wow, that's a spicy card here as both players going to river top pair.
And you can see it's a gin card because Safine, of course, has top pair as well. He decides to get a little tricky here. Tricky Safine. Checks it over to me, and I want to go for a large sizing now. Just make it look like I have a bluff, and he might have to pay me off with a hand like 9s, 7s, jacks, stuff like that. Either way, when I go for around 2/3, he puts in the snap call. Maybe it could have gone a little bit larger, but I'm not going to be too greedy. A 2.3K pot. King Queen versus King Jack. Let's freaking go. All right, we find ourselves in the nit game once again. Remember, it's $300 a person. There's 8 other people at the table, which means it's a $2,400 game we're playing here, and we don't want to lose it. And there's 2 people left, myself and 1 other player at the table. So when I'm in the $50 straddle, the action's on Yacht Club from the 25. He decides to raise it up to $100, and the action's on me. Jack 8 offsuit, probably just a fold from the big blind normally, but because the nit game's on and I'm second to last, got to get rid of it. I put in the call and we go off to a flop, which definitely isn't great. King 5-3 with 2 spades. Yacht Club makes a pair, goes for a c-bet, and I have a pretty easy fold in any normal situation, but these are not normal times, so I decide to defend here. I don't even go for the raise right away. I'm going for the tricky raise on the turn. That is the plan. You heard it here first. Let's see if I can execute. The turn card pairs the bottom card, coming the 3 of diamonds. I think I'm definitely going to have more 3s in my range than Yacht, so when he decides to go for another bet here into the nearly $500 pot, the gears in my head are turning. There's no way I'm good here with Jack high. He could have some ace highs, some queen highs, some pocket pairs, and of course a king. That being said, there's some flush draws, straight draws out there, so a lot of draws I can represent along with some strong hands like pocket 5s, ace 3, 3-4, stuff like that. 350 is his bet, and I decide to raise him up here. If we get a fold right away, that's great. I get rid of my nit button and collect $300. If he calls, we can represent a lot of things on the river, so I decide to raise it up immediately to $1,000, and that puts Yacht in a weird situation. 5 deuce off, he just has a pair. It's probably a call on this board given the fact there's a lot of draws and I have the button in front of me, but he decides to do what I think is the best play. Yacht, if you're listening, good fold by you, man. He folds the best hand. I turn over my Jack 8 off, get rid of the nit button, win the bounty, win the pot. What a beautifully played hand. All right, we're running back-to-back nit games. I won that one. I collected the bounty. Now we're right back into it once again. The stress is on. And as you can see from this aerial view, it's only between me and seat 9, Brass Monkey. So definitely a tough spot again. The adrenaline is pumping. I straddle it up to $100. Cashman raises $250. I put in the call with Jack 9 off, and we are going off to a flop. David versus Goliath here. Look at our hands. Queens versus Jack 9. But look at that. I flop myself a gutter to the straight. I decided to start with a check, which I think is the move, and Cashman goes for a nice little c-bet here of around half pot, and the action's back over to me. Check raising here makes some sense, representing pocket 7s, pocket 3s, and of course 8, 9, and those spade draws. However, calling is probably the best move in the long run, so I decide just to put in the 300 with my gutter. And of course, we bink it on the turn. Shout out to Rampage. It comes the 8 of hearts. Bang! We turn the straight. Like a bald guy who just got his head shaved, we play it smooth and check it over to Cashman, who decides to go for a nearly pot-sized bet here of $950. I really like his sizing with queens, although he does have the queen of spades blocking some of my draws, but he just wants to go large here given the fact I have the nit button. I'm going to be holding on the flop with a bunch of weird draws and 1 pair hands, so he wants to charge the maximum and he goes for a nearly $1,000 bet. When the action's back over to me, I gotta go for a raise if I'm trying to get stacks in. You can see that we both started the hand very deep for $25.50, nearly 300 big blinds. So if I want to get stacks in, I gotta go for a raise here. I think I like a sizing of around 2.5 to 3K. I think 3K on the high end would be as large as I want to go. So of course, I give off another small tell by raising it a little bit larger than that, 3.5K. But my logic in this spot was to try to get stacks in by the river. He could have a lot of strong hands like pocket kings and aces, which I don't think can fold just yet. He could also, of course, have pocket 10s or pocket 7s. Yeah, so I definitely like my raise. It's a little bit large, but let's see if he can put in the call with queens. And unfortunately, we get punished with him folding the queens. The ladies go down in the muck. And yeah, $5,600 coming my way, but when I make that call on the flop, which is a losing play probably in the long run, and then I bink the turn, you would think I'd get a little bit more value. A 2.5K raise I think would have got snapped there. Instead, I go a little bit large. I got a little bit greedy, but I think at the end of the day, when I win the pot, I get rid of the nit button. You can never be too mad at yourself, and I think a lot of opponents would have put in the call there with queens. Just unfortunate for us, Cashman was the astute player that he is, and he folds his cards. We are going to take down that one, and I'm pretty stoked to win it. All right, a few hands ago here, I looked down at 7-6 of clubs from the big blind. My stack has ballooned up to 17 grand, so we're up 12K on the session at the moment. I make it $200 from the big blind, and JD puts in the call from the straddle with ace-8 off. Just like that, we are off to a flop which comes 10-3-3 with 2 hearts, and I decide to go for a c-bet on this board. He's going to have a lot of hands that have me beat at the moment, but can fold to a c-bet, and that's what I decided to do. I bet 200. JD has what I think is a mix between calling and folding. If he thinks that I'm c-betting too wide, he can put in the call here with an ace-high type of hand. It's still going to be ahead of a lot of my hands like king-jack, maybe jack-queen, all that good stuff, and he's a good player. Puts in the call, and of course gets rewarded with a bink on the turn. The ace of clubs, actions on me. However, I don't think this is a snap check from me. I think I should be betting this a large portion of the time. I will have all the aces in my range. I'll c-bet them on the flop and continue on this turn. That's what I decided to represent and bet out for $400. It's possible we can now get a hand like pocket 5s, pocket 6s, pocket 7s to fold. But instead, JD has top pair and has a pretty easy call, leading us off to the river, which comes the 6 of spades. It now eliminates some hands like pocket 6s from JD's range. I think those would have folded the turn anyways, but it makes it a lot harder given the fact there's only one combination of that left in the deck. That being said, when I bet the turn, I'm not going to slow down on the river. I'm going to represent all my strong aces, and I decided to go for 2/3 the size of the pot, toss out some purple chips out there, and bet 1.1k. And you can see we do not get snap called by JD. You guys are wondering why I turned my 6 into a bluff here. It's because he's still going to be holding on the turn with some of his 10s. I think those would definitely fold on the river. So this bet does accomplish some stuff like that. However, he has an ace and has a pretty easy call. So eventually, after some thinking, he puts in the call. He doesn't love it because I'm still going to have ace 10, ace jack, ace queen, ace king. But in the spot, I turn over my pair of 6s, and he turns over his. He's winning that 4K pot, and unfortunately for us, we couldn't have seen a cleaner turn card because that would have meant we would have won that pot. All right, at one point, I was up $12,000 on the session, but at this moment, my stack is down. I'm upstuck, only up $9,700 at the moment. I'm leaving the stream early. I have somewhere to be, but I want to say that I made 10 grand on the session. So I offer it up to the table. Does someone want to flip me for 300? Safine takes the bait, and if we win this hand, we'll be up 10 grand on the session. If not, we'll only be up 9,400. So we decided to run a 4-card PLO flip, and unfortunately the graphics are wrong. I did lose this first one. I know it says I have 100% equity in this one. I do lose the first one, which is not great news. Not exactly sure how Safine beat me, but he did. He wins that one, so of course I have to go double or nothing. We put a $600 one out there. If we can win this now, we will be at a cool 10K. Board comes queen 10-4 with 2 spades. And the turn, we don't know what it is yet. The river card comes another spade. You can see I have an ace of spades in my hand. We want another one of those. Safine looks down at his cards and sees he has 5 deuce of spades. So he has a flush at the minimum. And yeah, I'm going to need this last card of mine to be a spade. I do a baccarat type of sweat. I look at the card from one angle, then look at it from the other. It's not the card I wanted to see. Unfortunately, Safine is going to win both of the flips, which means we are not at $10,000 worth of profit. Let's bring it to the outro.
Yep. There you go. Others winning.
Alright you guys, that wraps up the video. Only got in for 5,000, which is a huge accomplishment. Got out for 13,835, so a profit of 88.35. Let's freaking go, you guys. Super stoked. I was feeling a little bit down after that 20K loss just a few days ago against Mariano and everybody there. I played that 25K pot. If you guys haven't seen that, click up here. The video will be linked in a card. You're definitely going to want to see that because my spirits were down. They honestly, I didn't really want to play today, but I knew I had to buckle down and get back in it. It's a good game. I think I'm a good player, and as long as I find some good spots and the money gets in, I should come out on top. Also, thank you for all the positive comments in that last video where I played that 25K pot against Mariano. It really means a lot to me just seeing all the positive support from you guys and that you're invested in my journey as well. But as for today, we buckle down, we get back 88.35 with that 20K loss, and we're going in the right direction, building some momentum. I'm headed out to Mexico, Monterrey to be exact, to play in 2 live stream games. Be sure you hit that subscribe button if you are not already. Lots of fun content coming your way. Going to Michigan and Chicago as well after that. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace!
Wolfgang Poker?